Hi Steve, so you're the commercial manager on One Horton Heath and you trained as a quantity surveyor and you manage 3 of the QSs in the team. Can you tell me a bit about the role of a QS?
The quantity surveyors are split into 2 distinct areas. We have our contractors quantity surveyors who work for contracting organisations, and we have our PQSs or professional quantity surveyors who work in private practice. So one works advising clients when they first want to do a building, the other works for the contractor. Generally, if a client wants a building project, the first point of call is generally the architect to produce some initial designs for the scheme. Pretty quickly after that, he'll want to know how much that's going to cost to build. The QS and the architect will work together to try and establish what that cost should be. There may be a period of what we call value engineering, which is just reduce those costs. The PQS will then check that final design to make sure it matches the client's budget. It's really at this point where your contractor's QS gets involved. He will be involved normally during the tendering stage. He will then review it and put a price together which they think they can do the job for, and obviously include a degree of profit. The PQS will then analyse those prices when they get returned. The rest of the team will analyse the technical aspects of those returns, and they'll recommend to the client a winning bidder.
So you came from the contractor side, didn't you?
Yes, first 5 years of my career as a PQS working in a private practice in Liverpool, a very small private practice. We've got a really good experience in everything involved in that kind of, in that world. Then moved over to the contracting side, out on site, measuring things, placing subcontract orders, a lot of valuations of subcontractors' work. I found it a lot more varied than the PQS. I moved abroad, I moved to Dubai for a couple of years. In construction, the jobs do tend to be quite transferable to abroad. You know, quantity surveyor is recognised in many countries around the world.
Yeah, so you can go anywhere with it.
So you'll, if you get, your quantity surveying degree or your chartership especially, that is recognised in most countries of the world, so it's relatively easy if you want to.
So did you do a degree? Did you go to university?
Did my A-levels or commenced my A-levels. Then after about 6 months decided it wasn't for me, so I got a job in a factory for a few years. Then I was there for about 18 months, kept on looking around, decided what I wanted to do. I seen a job for a PQS come up. A couple of my dad's friends were PQSs. Spoke to them, they got me some brochures on what a PQS does or a quantity surveyor does. Thought it sounded great. It's a good mix between office-based work and on-site work and practical stuff, so I thought, sounds like me. Went for the interview, got the job. So that's how I got into QS in the world of quantity surveying.
Right, okay, so you'd really come straight from education. And how old were you when you got that first?
I was 18 when I got that first role. I went to university part-time, took 5 years to complete. That was funded by the organisation I was working for, so they release you 1 day a week to go to university or go to college, and they pay for that. And the great thing about it is obviously you've got all that knowledge within the organisation as well, so if you ever have any issues or problems, there's always someone there who can kind of help you through it.
For somebody that's kind of maybe watching this video today and thinking, I want to find out a bit more about a QS, how can I research, or what top tips would you give them for coming into the sector and training to be a quantity surveyor?
I think the first thing is to understand what a quantity surveyor does in a bit more detail. By all means reach out and speak to quantity surveyors. The association that quantity surveyors belong to is called the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. They have a website with lots and lots of information on it. There's trade press, there's a magazine called Building Magazine. I think if you've got a genuine interest in where you intend to go, there's always a huge benefit.
Steve, what is your flip the duvet? What motivates you? What is it that when you wake up in the morning gets you excited about going to your job?
I think the great thing about quantity surveying, and that's both sides of the industry, whether it be PQS or contractors QSing, is it's very varied. You go through different stages from procurement to manage it on site to final accounts. You'd be on site quite a lot to go and see what's happening on site to measure what's happened in the month. And obviously year by year, if you're a contractor's QS, probably every year, 18 months, you're on a new project with a new team generally. 1 year you might be building a school, next year you might be building a hospital, next might be a shopping centre. With a PQS, it's possibly even more varied in terms of the jobs that you see. And obviously it is considered quite a well-paid role. Money is important. I've got a family now, I've got to support them, and I think it's nice to be able to do nice things and go on holidays and things like that. So that is obviously always a consideration. Real estate in this country generally, or property in this country generally, is a heavy polluter. If you can be involved in the construction process, the design process, from whatever aspect, from quantity surveying, from an architect, from an engineer, you can influence that. The houses that are going on in Horton Heath are a perfect example. There's no fossil fuels there. We're using, you know, innovative heating technologies which are sustainable, with lots of photovoltaic, so lots of solar power on site. So if you are interested in green issues, being in construction, you are kind of impacting them right at the heart of where it needs to be impacted.
Steve, thank you so much for giving me your time today. So quantity surveying has been the most requested video for me to do. So it's great to spend a bit of time, understand the roles. I now understand quite clearly the two differences. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lee.